Hey everybody, I'm live now. I finally figured out these settings. I do apologize. Let me go ahead and make sure everyone is getting back on. 1 second. All right, let's see. Get some people logged in. Let me delete this. Delete this. All right, but we are on in the power of stay. Try 3. Waiting for some of you guys to log in. Okay. All right, 3 people. You guys came. Thanks for finding me. Sorry for making it a maze. It's a little embarrassing. I have no clue why the settings of this live stream were messed up like that, but I have to figure that out later. For those few people who are here with me, it's just you and me right now. Hopefully other people can find us. Let's go ahead and dive into the power of stay, which is the point of this video. So a couple things that we want to go over today. We're going to talk about how to develop patience and self-control in our dogs. I think this is really, really important. Those of you guys who have done training with me, you guys will definitely see when our dogs can control their mental states, it's a huge game changer, right? The difference between a dog being able to hold it for 2 seconds versus a dog being able to hold it for 2 minutes, 20 minutes, et cetera, et cetera. These are ultimately some of the grounding components that help shape our dog's personality, characters, and the way that they think and make decisions, right? So today what we're gonna do is we're gonna be going over the different stages of stay. We're gonna be going over where we start with small puppies, with adolescent dogs who are very impatient or reactive. We're going to kind of have a couple different dog models here to be able to show you guys the different progressions of stay, because I think that the big key to the development of patience, especially when we're teaching dogs, and actually funny enough when we're teaching people, it's what we call scaffolding. And scaffolding is going to be incrementally more difficult levels to the game of stay, if that makes sense. So we're going to be going over that. I'm going to have a couple dogs out here that we do it with. Some dogs are my dogs. Some dogs are in training. So let's go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and grab one dog, performer for us, and I will be right back. Christiana? Okay. Hi, baby. Come here. I'm going to actually change the light real quick. Hey, baby. Excuse me. Thank you. All right. Oh, 6 people joined us. Thanks, guys, for finding the new link. I appreciate that. Okay. What's up, little baby? So everyone, this is baby Maya. I think you guys have seen her before, but let me go ahead and bring the camera down to her level so you can see her. Oh yeah, little babies. Okay, so when going over how to teach stays, it's really important for us to understand there are 3 variables that we're trying to shift and control when teaching our dogs relaxation and patience. I think the very, very first one is what we call duration. So how long can my dog hold a command, or how long can my dog be still in general? And if you kind of see this squiggly little bouncy happy dog, getting her to stay for long periods of time is a challenge, right? And there may be a lot of dogs that out there who are watching, or people who might watch this later, who their dogs are squirming like this, okay? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over two particular uses of tools, right? We're gonna go over the use of food, and then we're gonna go over the use of a leash ruler today. And we're gonna talk about when you would add one in, when you would take it out. But pretty much when we use food is, in the development of patience and stay, what we're trying to do is we're trying to actually teach the dog the longer they wait, the more rewards they can get, right? So this is kind of what it's going to look like. Let's go ahead and grab little Maya, and let's make sure, number one, that our dogs know how to sit. Okay, so she knows how to sit. Good. Good. Now, the reason a lot of dogs snap into obedience when they see food is because it gives them a focal point, right? Instead of them, they have one solid goal, one solid mission. And so I know so many dogs that stay perfectly good for food, but they may not stay without food or treats being present, right? So one of the very, very first things that we have to do in dog training, let me go ahead and raise this up just so we can see. There we go. All right, come here. One of the very first things that we have to do in dog training is first develop duration, okay? So in my mind, the way that this works, and I'm gonna count, 3 seconds. Come here, sit, good, good. 1, 2, 3, So if the dog moves or makes a mistake, we're gonna place the dog in the exact same position before giving the dog a reward. Good, good. Good, mama. Come here. Sit. Sit. Good. Come here. Sit. Good. Good. So in my head, I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3. Good. 1, 2, 3. She's smelling the crumbs on the ground, which makes it a little harder. Come here. Sit. Good. Very nice. Good. So just intervals of 3 in my head. Good. And if you keep dropping treats like I am in this demonstration, it definitely works against you, okay? So in my mind, just 1, 2, 3, good. Now I'm saying the word good right before I give her the food because eventually good becomes a marker, good. Good becomes a marker that means keep doing what you're doing. Good. Good. Okay, so now maybe I can go to 5 seconds. Right here. Right here. When you start seeing that your dogs start calming down and being more patient, start actually looking for you, then what we can do is we can go to 5-second intervals in between food, right? Now, again, this is very basic level 1 stuff, but super crucial, and it's super micro goal. Good. So in my mind, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. And you don't always have to count it out loud. I'm just counting it out as representation. 4, 5. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Now, if I want to go to 7, I totally can. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Good. Come. Sit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Good. So we're just waiting and little by little building tolerance. Sit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Good. Okay. I'm going to try and go to 10 now. Okay. Bring it, baby. Good. Sit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Okay. And the goal is that we want to just build this up to 20 seconds, 30 seconds. 10. Good. Perfect. But you see how we're just gradually stacking and adding more time, more time, more time, more time. And then we can go ahead and let the dog be released. Okay. So, Maya. Here, sit. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Now, just because I got to 10 doesn't mean I always have to start at 10, right? But I always want to maybe finish at 10 if that's the longest goal that I got. So what the idea is the more you condition and practice duration, the more that you'll get a dog who can be still for long periods of time. Good. Okay. Good. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So she missed it. Sit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Perfect. Okay. So what we really want to do in order for this to get stronger and stronger, you want to make sure that the dog is gradually getting good at the 3 seconds and can nail 3 seconds with no problem. I usually like to do things 5 times in a row before I move on to the next number. So if I can do 5 3 seconds in a row, then I'll move on to 5 5 seconds in a row, 5 7 seconds. And what your very, very first stage of this would be is teaching the dog to hold it for anywhere between 20 to 30 seconds, right? And the reason we say for that long is because this dog is kind of having this expectation developed in their brain and in their mind where the longer they wait, the more patient they are guaranteed some type of reward, okay? And so what this does, this allows us to then add the next stage, which is we start playing with distance and movement a little bit. So we're gonna go ahead and demonstrate that with our baby girl. Where did you get that? Where did you get that? She just played with her friends, so she is super excited. Okay, so come in. Come, sit. So when we play with duration or we add movement, sit. Good. We move and we come right back and give food. Good girl. Sit. Sit. Good. Okay, let's go ahead and do this from the side here. Sit. Now, in the grand scheme of things, if my dog lays down and I've asked her to sit, it's not the worst mistake. It is something that we have to fix a little bit later, but right now the biggest goal is that my dog didn't move from the position she started in, right? So let's go ahead and try that one more time. Sit. Good. Stay. Good. So this is taking about 3 to 5 seconds, this whole movement pattern I'm doing. Stay. Good. Now, once I start walking straight back and straight forward, and that's really easy for me, then what I can start doing is I can start moving off to the side, right? So if I were to give you guys a different angle, sit, stay. I can move a little to the side. And I'm only on my knees because this dog is this small. Good. Okay. Now I'm going to start implementing the word stay anytime right before I move away from the dog. I'm going to start implementing the word stay, just so that the dog hears it in repetition right before this exercise takes off. Hey, you, Nugget, right here, sit, stay. So I can walk away, I can walk towards her, I can walk to the left, I can walk to the right. And just like we did with the duration time, we gradually make this longer and we make, we add more variety to the movement that we're doing. Okay, good. Stay. Good. So we can add gradually more movement. Stay. I can also change the angle. So maybe I go to her left side. I'll go to her right side. Good. Okay. But everything is lasting 3 to 5 seconds. Then my duration is lasting 5 to 7 seconds. So I'm still keeping a similar time frame, gradually going up. The only difference now is we're adding movement and we're adding distance between us and the dog. Okay, so this is the second part of it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate a little bit later what it's like to add like heavy distractions to a dog with their stay. Off. Good. Heavy distractions for a stay, but we're going to need to use different tools for that. Okay, so one thing I'll demonstrate here with baby Maya is what happens when we actually use a leash. Okay, so this is just a very simple slip lead that we found at the vet. And when we use leashes are just meant to be kind of placeholders and guiding tools to be able to get our dogs to do certain things. So a little bit of preliminary work that needs to be done is if I were to pull down on the leash, that means to lay down. If I were to pull up on the leash, it means to sit, right? So you see how that works? I pull down, the dog lays. If I pull up, the dog sits, okay? So this is called leash pressure work. We might do this next week in a whole different video talking about leash pressure. But ultimately, what the dog does is the dog looks at the leash as a communication tool versus something wrapped around their neck, preventing their movement or constricting their movement, right? So training leash pressure is really, really important for the development of stay work and going above and beyond, and we'll demonstrate that a little bit later with some other dogs, okay? But let's go ahead and look at kind of what we do with the leash, okay? So if I wanted Maya to sit, come on, sit, good. Come on, get more in the middle, sit, good. So with the leash, if for any reason, we're doing the exact same thing. I'm gonna go ahead and do some different movement patterns, 3 to 5 seconds of movement. Then what I can do is I can go to the dog and give her a treat, right? When we use the leash, this helps us keep the dog in position. So just to kind of give you guys a visual marker, I'm actually going to go ahead and grab a bed that she has, so you guys can kind of see a visual marker of staying in the same place. What's this, mommy? What is this? What is this? Hey, okay, come here. Come here. Yeah, sit. Good. Awesome. Now let's go ahead and turn the camera a little bit. There we go. Okay, so stay. Now, when we give the dog a physical marker, like a bed or this really helps give our dogs more of like a landmark to know where they should be staying, okay? That's it. Good girl. All right. Also, what the leash allows us to do, if the dog moves off the bed, we can go ahead and put the dog back on the bed if need be. Good. So the leash is just kind of like a supporting tool in this stay process. If I wanted to add different movement patterns, right, the leash is there for any reason. If she makes a mistake, I can guide her back in the position that I want her to be. Okay, stay. Good. And so right now what my goal is converted to, right now my goal has converted from a 3 to 5 second just moving away from her, moving to the left, moving to the right. It's converted to actually being able to walk all the way around our dogs, okay? Now, being able to walk all the way around your dogs is a little bit tricky because as soon as we go behind our dog's peripheral vision, they kind of have this tendency to want to like see where we are and turn around. And so teaching our dogs to not turn around, this is kind of where one little hurdle in training might be, but the leash really comes in super handy for teaching that. Come on, sit. Okay, so in the event, Maya, sit, stay. In the event the dog got distracted, you see how she's turning her head, but she's not actually completely spinning. That's it, right there, perfect. So the leash now allows me to reposition the dog in the direction that I wanted her to be in. Good, and stay. Good, stay, good girl. So that I can attempt it again. Good, okay? So the leash really becomes an invaluable tool when teaching, moving around the dog and going all the way around in a circle, right? Especially if our dogs turn around to see where we're going, okay? So let's go ahead and just review real quick. Very basics of stay. Without a leash. Good girl, it's very nice. Okay, without a leash, and this is just a sit stay. Sit. We're gonna start with duration first. So 1, 2, 3, do that 5 times in a row, okay? Then I'm moving on for 5 seconds. Maya, sit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, good. Do that 5 times in a row. And if it takes 6 or 7 times, then go practice. If you want to practice more, you totally can. I like to do 5 perfect ones in a row before moving on. Sit. Good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. So just playing with duration. Let's go all the way to 20 if we can. Sit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Good, right? And again, I know these are fast counts. Again, they're just placeholders. It doesn't have to be an actual clock 20 seconds per se, because you will build up to that eventually. Sit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Come on. 8, 9, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Sit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, right here. Sit. Hear the dog outside. Good. So we kind of sometimes also refocus the dog to just finish on a good note, right? So if the dog gets a mistake, we can just raise the hand up, get another 10 seconds out of the dog, and then go ahead and give the dog food, okay? So phase 1 is building on duration, 5 seconds, 7 seconds, 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, okay? Take your time with it. Don't rush through it like you see me doing. I'm just showing you in time lapse what you should be doing. And the second part is we start adding distance, okay? So let's go over some distance. Bring it, mommy. Bring it. Sit. Bring it. Sit. Good. Stay. So then we start walking away. Sit. Good. Good. I walk away again. Maybe I walk this way. And then I come back to directly in front of her and I give her food. All right. Stay. I walk away from her. Good. Good. Now, one little thing I would recommend for you guys, and because this is a common mistake that you see a lot of people make when practicing stays, I want you guys to be as natural as you possibly can when practicing stays, because unfortunately what happens, okay, good girl. Unfortunately what happens is when we practice stays, we don't want our dogs to make mistakes. So we tend to do this thing where we kind of walk on eggshells, right? So for example, it'll look something like this. Sit, sit. Good. So it looks like this. Stay, stay. You see how like I'm walking weirdly backwards, right? When you walk weirdly like this, two things happen. It makes your dog think something's wrong with you. That's number one, because you're not acting naturally or normally. But also what it does, it makes what you're trying to do take longer than if you were to just do it very quickly, right? So if I were to just tell the dog, sit, lay down, stay, and I wanted to take 3 steps back and 3 steps forward, well, that just took me 2 seconds, right? Versus if I go, slowly like this ultimately will take me, up to 5-10 seconds, where the dog, if the dog hasn't practiced duration yet, the dog might make a mistake sooner, which means we can't reward them, right? So this is how we do it with food. So make sure that we're doing longer duration, build on duration. Second part, build on distance. Little by little, start walking away from the dog, coming back to the dog and rewarding, okay? The harder one is being able to go in a circle around the dog, okay? Now we can do this with food as well. I'll show you the food version versus the leash version, but pretty much what we want to do is we can actually tell the dog to stay, have a focal point on the food, go behind the dog, and then come right back to center. Okay. Now there might be a situation where your dog just really likes to stay seated and you can very easily go around the dog. My recommendation is the closer you are to the dog when you walk a circle around them, the easier it is for them. Okay. Sit. So if I walk around the dog, if I just walk around like this, it'll probably be a little bit easier than if I did a big circle around the dog, because when the dog is like this, they can still see me in their peripheral vision going around them. So they don't feel forced to have to turn around to see where I'm going, if that makes sense. Okay, so this is baby Maya, just demonstrating the puppy versions of stay. So those of you who have a very small dog or small puppy, go ahead and practice with that. And those of your dogs who, if you haven't practiced this stuff, do it with your teenage dogs, do it with your older dogs. This is going to be stage 1 of all stay work. Come here, Maya. Good girl. Down. Good. Then pretty much what we would practice the sit stay, and then we could practice the same thing in a down stay. Okay, so the down stay is just guiding the dog into the down, and now we're rewarding the dog when they're only in the down position. So it's a pretty simple transition, but let's go ahead and grab a different dog and we'll go over the next stage. Okay, give me 1 second. Hey, Mr. Ozzy, my handsome boy. All right. So are there any questions from anybody before I move on to the next stage of teaching stay? This is our boy Ozzy. He's going to be joining us for the leash portion of stay. Who's a good boy? Yeah, he's a good dog. Oh, he's very sweet. Any questions that you guys have at all? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh, yes, I love you. Oh, yes, I love you. Oh, yes. No questions? All right, then we're going to go ahead and move on. Here we go. Put this back up. Okay. Okay, come on. Ozzy boy, come here. Okay, so Ozzy is a little bit more of an excitable dog, very, very excited. He learned the very basics of stay with the food, so let's see. Ozzy, sit. Good boy. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We can go all the way up to 30 with him. Good. Okay. Then what we can do is we can start saying stay, and we can walk away from the dog. Sit. Good. All right. But I want you guys to see something. Depending on the dog, sometimes the use of food in the stay process actually makes the dog a little bit more excited. So let me see if you can see kind of Ozzy's perspective. He loves this cookie so much. You see how excited he is? He's just so stoked and excited for this food. This is where we bring in leash work, okay? So being able to have the leash to remind the dog what he should be doing helps calm the dog's energy down, all right? So I don't know if you guys saw that little leash correction I gave him, that little reminder to sit back up. Now we start seeing a more peaceful, relaxed dog. And this is what we, why we use leashes sometimes, because just simply being able to physically touch the dog with a leash or just give the dog some type of physical prompt or reminder, the dog snaps out of the obsession over this food that he has, okay? So far we've gone over this goal, okay? We've gone over duration. In this scenario, when we're teaching a dog leash work, just like with Maya, we have to teach dogs what pulling up on the leash means. We have to teach dogs what pulling down on the leash means. And then if I pull up again, you see how it's just like a signal. Pulling up and pulling down means to sit or lay down. So this allows us to put the dogs and prompt them to be in a certain position, okay? But the next part of this is mastering what I call the 360, which is just being able to go in a circle around the dog. So let's see. Sit, stay. In this scenario, I'm going to start really saying the word stay. And if I have a leash in my hand, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this leash hover slightly above my dog's head, just like this. So if the dog turns and looks at me, that's totally okay. But right now, the dog is only getting a treat if I actually finish the rotation, and if I finish the rotation of the stay. Okay, so let's try that one more time. Come here, sit, stay. So if I'm able to go all the way around the dog, so if he moves, I just guide him back, stay, and start all over. Good dog. Okay, so he kind of adjusted there. As long as he's facing the same way we started, I'm okay with that. Good. Stay. Stay. Ooh. Yeah, very good dog. Okay. Now this part could be a little hard sometimes. Again, with the dogs making mistakes, they run around, they pivot, they do all those different types of things. But this is ultimately our first dynamic goal in stay. Stay. Can I move 360 degrees around my dog while they hold a position? If we can achieve this, this is a huge game changer for all dogs who can stay. Okay. So far, duration. We've been able to master distance and coming back to the dog and giving them treats. We've been able to add the distraction now of going around in a circle. Okay? And we can go both directions. Let's try both. Good boy. He got too happy with the good boy. Sit. Stay. 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 Good boy. Come on. Stay. Stay. So that little leash reminder prevents him from moving off in the wrong direction. Good boy. Yes, good job. So I don't know if you got to see some of the leash reminders. It stopped his rotation after I gave it to him. So stay. Let's do this one more time so it's nice and clean. Good boy. Very good dog. Good. And always praise your dog when they're doing a good job. Don't just be silent and wait for the dog to make mistakes. I think this is really important. Feedback, keeping the dog engaged with you, all that's really, really important during this process. Good boy. Okay, so we've mastered now the 360 degrees around him. Then the next part of stay work is what we call distraction. So again, to review the 3 Ds, it's duration, it's distance. Then the last D is distractions. Okay, so distractions change from dog to dog. And what I like to do is I like to put distractions in 3 different categories. Okay, first distraction category I like to put it is in what I call social distractions. So social distractions are going to be things that the dog likes to interact with. This could be another person. This could be a dog. This could be a bunch of different things. But the key is social distractions. Something has to be alive that the dog likes to interact with. Okay. For those of you who have leash reactivity issues, if your dog is reacting negatively towards a dog, I wouldn't necessarily say that that's a social distraction. That's the dog actually being defensive. So the 3 categories are social. There is drive distractions, or things that really get the dog like hyperactive, balls, squirrels, toys, things that drive the dog, that make them very driven. And the last thing is going to be things that make the dog, scared or defensive, right? So we work on those things in a scale when training dogs, when teaching them to stay. So for example, I would first teach my dog to stay and be patient before interacting with me, a stranger, a dog, and that's going to be stage number 1, right? So social distraction. And the reason we start with social distraction is because these are positive things in the dog's mind that we have to teach them. Be patient, and then you get to play with that person. Be patient, and then you get to have whatever that thing is, okay? So this is really important when the dog is around people and things that they love, that they like to play with, okay? The second thing is we're purposely gonna go now after the dog's genetic desires, right? So there are some dogs who really like squeaky toys. There are some dogs who really would kill over food, right? There are dogs who, really love a tennis ball, right? And then what we start doing is we start bringing those distractions in once we've mastered basic social distractions, okay? And then finally, last but not least, then we go over the things that kind of rub the dog the wrong way. So sometimes dogs are scared of a skateboard, right? I wouldn't work on a skateboard until my dog has mastered social distractions and patience, and until the dog has mastered, being able to hold a stay with a tennis ball, with a squeaker toy, with food, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to show you guys an example of what social distractions look like. Oh, sorry, boy. What social distractions look like. Let me go ahead and grab my assistant real quick and see if she's willing to help us. All right. Come here. You got me real Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and move this so we can see a little bit more of the room. Amazing. All right, here we go. All right, everybody, this is Christiana. Say,
hello.
Wait, hold on. Here's the camera. She's one of our trainers here at CANIS. So we're going to be going over today. We're going to do the friendly stranger exercise. Okay. That's all we're doing. So as we talked about, everything goes in stages. So this is the first example of what we would consider to be our social distraction. So this is a person that he likes. And all I'm going to do as his handler and as another person that he likes is ask him to be patient before just going to the thing that he likes. So this could be a dog, this could be a person. The key with social distractions, it has to be something that's alive that the dog likes to interact with in a positive way, right? So very different than the way a dog might interact with a squirrel. It's very different, right? So here we go. Okay, so what I want to do, this is also very important that the dog does understand their leash pressure, because sometimes when dogs get obsessed over something that they like, they will have a tendency of hyper-focusing on it. So my ability to guide the dog into something that I want them to do is really, really important. This is actually our first time doing this with him. So you guys get to see it from the very, very bottom. Okay? You can close that door for me real fast. Okay, so just to kind of prove that he likes her, go ahead. Okay, that's hi. So he likes her a lot.
Hi, buddy. Yeah.
Okay. So now the next idea that we're trying to teach is be patient. Wait until I give you permission to go say hi. Come here, baby. Good. Okay. So what I'm going to be doing is she is going to go ahead and just do a light distraction. So maybe just get down at his level. Okay. So you see how he automatically breaks that command? Without asking permission, he just completely broke a sit stay. So what I'm going to tell him is to sit and stay and hold him accountable for that now. So come here. Sit, stay, stay. Okay, go and do the same thing. Good. It helped. Just giving him the command helped his reaction on the command. If you guys saw that. So we'll try it one more time. Let's make sure it's not a hoax. Okay, so that was good. So I'm just going to remind him with the leash. Try it one more time. Good. If he lays down, I'm just going to prompt him back to the sit. If he does sit, I'm going to reward him for just going back to the seated position. Same thing. Good boy. And then we're going to reward. After every little sliver of a challenge that's difficult for him, we're going to go ahead and reward the dog. Go ahead.
Hello, Ozzy.
Good boy. So he thought about it, but he didn't give into it. I want you guys to see a little bit more of Ozzy if we can. There you go. Stay boy. Okay, again.
Hello, Ozzy.
Good. All right, so what I want the dog to think of is if he's patient, if he waits for permission, he actually gets rewarded, right? And if you guys see his head turning around looking at me, it's because he's waiting for that permission. Let's go ahead and try that one more time.
You want to switch so that he's...
Yeah, we will, yeah, on the next one. Okay, perfect, good boy. So every micro challenge that she's doing to try and entice him and tease him a little bit is being shot down by him, and he's getting rewarded for making a good decision. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this again, slightly different, so you guys can see him. Sit. All right, this time Christiana is going to be a little bit more distracting, and she's actually going to try and tease him. So I want you guys to think of if there was like a person on the street who goes, "Oh my God, what a pretty dog you have." She's going to be more of that character, and I want you to do this for about 5 seconds if you can. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to tell him to stay, and we're going to see if he has the ability to control himself. Go ahead and try it.
Oh my gosh, what a pretty boy. You are so cute.
Good boy. Very nice. And go ahead and go down low, and let's do this one more time. So she's going to kind of get down at his level. So anytime that we get down at the dog's level, the dog thinks that's an invitation to come. So let's try that one more time and be very excited.
Oh my gosh, you're so cute.
Good boy. Very good. Okay. So as long as he's holding his sit stay, and as long as he's not giving into this distraction, he's constantly going to get reward. But you guys see how we have to simulate this over and over and over, and he does good twice in a row, then he fails, and he does good 3 times in a row, and then he fails. As dog trainers, we kind of expect this to be the case, right? We expect them to be good sometimes and some not other ones. And so what we want to do is we want to make the dog be able to do it 5 times in a row perfect, 8 times in a row perfect, 10 times in a row perfect. And so if you guys are at home training your own dogs, I want you guys to think about, how do I qualify my dog's success? I like to look at when my dog gets in the zone and they're doing exactly what I want over and over, and the dog is getting rewarded more than he's getting reminded, then we're starting to be on the right track, right? So this is an example of a social distraction, okay? Let's go ahead and go over the release now, okay? So my release for a dog like him is either free or okay, okay? So if I tell my dog to stay and I go, okay, good, then we go ahead and release the command. The release command is just as important as the stay because it is giving the dog permission to do certain things, when you had previously told them not to, right? So it's super important. So let's go ahead and be a distraction if you can, Christiane. Sit.
Hello, Adrian. Hello, handsome boy. Hello.
Good boy. Okay.
Hello.
You should say hi.
Hello.
So when I say okay and release, I go ahead and offer with my full body language. I say, okay, let's go say hi together, so that way he doesn't feel that it's a setup. Okay, because a lot of times, because we're trying to set the dog up in a way to make the right or wrong decision. Sometimes they get very wise and they second guess whether they should do it or not. Okay. Sit. Good. Yep. Sit. Good. Okay, stay. Let's try it one more time.
Hello, Auntie boy.
Good boy.
Hello.
So he made a mistake, so we're going to reset. I gently pull up on the leash so he resets on the sit. Remind him that he's a good boy. Let's try it one more time. Same exact distraction level.
Hello, Auntie boy. Hello.
Good boy. Keep going.
Who's that handsome boy? What a good dog you have. He's such a good boy.
Okay, go say hi.
Oh my goodness, good
Perfect.
job.
And then you can go say hi. All right. So level, when we're going up the different types of distraction work, first distraction is social distraction. Second phase of distraction that we work on is things that really get them excited. So let's find a couple toys that get them excited. Oh my goodness. This one actually lost its squeak.
Oh.
Right. Yep. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This thing gets them excited. Yeah, this thing gets you excited too. Oh. So toys get this dog really, really excited. So now check out what we can do. Okay. I think we're good. Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Okay. So you see how excited and ramped up Ozzy got just for this toy. So when we're working with a distraction or a social distraction or a drive distraction, this squeak triggers his predatory prey drive, right? Where he wants to look for the squirrel or the possum or something like that, right? So what we're doing is we're going to practice stay. And then what we do is we go ahead and squeak it. We might move it around. And after 3 to 5 seconds, or 5 to 10 seconds of patience, he can have it. Okay. Yeah, good boy. So just like when we were kids, if we showed patience and self-control, we were almost guaranteed whatever it is that we wanted, right? So for example, like if this was ice cream and I went to just go grab it without permission, our parents would go, excuse me, what do you do? What do we say? And I would go, oh, so sorry, can I please have the ice cream? And then, 99% of the time, if we ask please, we're allowed to have whatever it is that we asked please for, right? So this is what we're taught as kids, and this is actually what we're trying to teach dogs as well. Because a lot of times they think that they can just have whatever they set their mind to, right? If they see the squirrel, they just go for the squirrel. They see the person, they just go for it. They see the dog, they just go for it. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to create a relationship with our dogs where even though there might be something distracting, they have to understand that we have to give them permission or at least check in to see if that's okay to engage with, okay? So let's go ahead and try this again. Stay. So if he made the mistake, we're gonna go ahead and remind him. Now, anytime that you see that your dog makes a mistake, guys, a lot of times we are scared to let our dogs fail. The key to learning is actually failing, right? So if I do the same exact motion and I throw it in the air, now he had an opportunity to redeem himself and he can get a cookie for that, right? So now he's able to weigh Good decision versus bad decision. Good decision versus bad decision. And if the more good decisions that he makes, the more rewards he gets. The more wrong decisions, pretty much he just has to do it again, right? That's the only punishment in dog training, at least when we're working with patients, is you just have to do it again when you fail, and you have to redeem yourself. So I call these redemption rounds. So I'm gonna get the dog really excited. Woo, woo, woo. Perfect, he didn't fall for it, he gets a cookie. Now another reward he can have instead of a cookie is, okay. He can grab the actual toy itself. Yeah. And that can also be a reward, okay? So we're not trying to teach the dog that he's not allowed to have the toy. We're trying to teach the dog that he needs to wait for permission to engage and interact with the toy. Does that make sense? All right. Okay, here we go. Yeah, yeah, you're doing it. Okay, out. Good. All right, heel. So sit, stay. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and try a different type of distraction. One could be food, right? Sometimes dogs are really good at this, sometimes they're not good at this. So this is a piece of beef liver, and what we can do, the same way that we did with the actual toy itself, we can drop a piece of food in front of the dog. He makes a mistake. I physically remind him what I want him to do. I throw the treat again. What's that? Oh my goodness. What is it? I throw another one. And then I can release the dog. Yes, okay. Try not to let the dog pick food up off the ground, okay? So I just kind of pick it up and I hand it back to him because he did such a good job. So sit, so avoid the food on the ground. If I release him to go get it, I'm gonna go ahead and pick them up and hand them to him. Okay, yes, good boy. All right, so you kind of see how that works with food, all right? Let me go ahead and grab one last thing that's a very common distracting tool, which is the tennis ball, and let's see how he responds to the tennis ball. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. You want that ball? You want that ball? Good boy. Okay. All right, so he obviously likes the tennis ball, right? Now, one of the things that we have to do is we have to condition the dog. Stay. And now, mind you guys, I know it looks like he knows this stuff already. He doesn't. This is our first time that we're doing this type of distraction work with him. But what's kicking in is all the previous foundational work that we did before this week, right? Also, his parents worked on stay before even coming to training with us. So he does know what the concept of stay is. So if you guys do that preliminary foundation work, when we start throwing in distractions, it's not as hard for the dog as you might think, because you've built the strength up in that foundation for the dog to be able to succeed these rounds, okay? So this one he really likes. First, we're just gonna practice bouncing, okay? You see how he made a mistake? Stay. Good boy. Every time, you see how he keeps twitching, almost going for it? Okay. So I'm just gonna make him wait 5 to 10 seconds, and then I go ahead and release the toy. Good boy. Can I have it, please? Can I have it? Good. Okay. Sit. Good. Stay. So remind the dog to stay. He makes the mistake. I remind him pulling up on the leash. Good. So I'm going to make him hold it for maybe, let's see, 5, 6, maybe even 10 bounces. 8, 9, 10. Okay. Nice. Good boy. So we're just teaching the dog to wait for permission, and then they can have it, right? So this is, in dog training, this is called a hold and release. This is called a hold and release exercise. They do this with hunting dogs all the time, okay? So now the next one, other than just bouncing, we're gonna add a little toss to the tennis ball. Making the ball move or be in motion is actually really hard for dogs because it kicks in their prey drive where they want to go after that ball. So here we go. Stay. Go, bouncing. Then we go ahead and toss the ball. That was very good that he didn't respond. And as a reward, okay, he can go and get his ball. Okay, so you guys see how that's shaped and how that's framed out. All right, so this is an example of the first 2 tiers of social distraction, and then we also see an example of the drive distraction, the things that get him excited in a good way. okay? Usually it's toys, it's food, it's a squeaker, things like that. I'm gonna go ahead and let him just chew on that ball real quick. I see a couple questions showing up here. Let me go ahead and see what they are. Exactly. So one question from Brittany was, do you pick it up so they don't learn to eat food off the ground? Exactly. And that's really a puppy rule, but just I like to make it a general dog rule in general, because a lot of puppies tend to go on the ground and they like to eat stuff and like kind of indiscriminately they like to eat stuff. So it's a little it's unhealthy for them. So if you guys are training a small puppy, definitely don't do it. An older dog, definitely, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. You know, there are dogs who like to scavenge on the ground a lot more than others. I just don't like to feed into that. All right. So I hope that answered your question. It's dropped while cooking. Oh yeah, like food that's dropped while cooking. What I like to do if it's in my kitchen, I'll just straight up put it in his food bowl, you know, or like I'll put a pile off to the side and feed it to them in their food bowl. And then Susan Osborne, my dog Milo has a hard time with the release. Like he doesn't believe me. How can I make it more rewarding? He's a rescue with an abuse history. Okay. So sometimes we can just do very short-term stays, right? So we really will. So the key is the dogs will learn whatever we've practiced frequently, right? And so if we're practicing stays frequently, well, the dogs learn the patience stuff. But then the release happens so far and few between in their mind, it's not getting conditioned as much as possible. So when we practice releases, I like to practice release with food a lot. So let's kind of see. Okay. So let's say, for example, we have a sit stay and we're like this, and then I do something really little, 2-3 seconds. Okay, good. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say okay and walk backwards to invite the dog to me. So this body language of walking backwards tells the dog to come to me, right? It's kind of like a chase. And so anytime I walk backwards, it's an invitation for the dog to get to me. All right. So I would always, so just a rapid fire exercise you could do, Susan, would look like this. Come on, sit, stay. Good dog. Okay, good dog. Good. Come in, right in. Sit, stay. Okay, good. Maybe throw something else in. Come in. Sit, stay. Okay. Yes. Perfect. Come in. Sit, stay. Okay, perfect. So we're just we're focusing more on the okay versus on the stay aspect. So I hope that was helpful. All right, left, right. How to teach your dog to stay in certain area, like don't go in the kitchen or don't come inside home unless I'll tell you to. So that's a good question. So there are a couple ways we can go about it. The educational way, right, like what we call constructive reprimands. So the idea of a constructive reprimand is like my dog knows something already, and I use what he knows to kind of create a boundary or like a consequence for him, right? So let's say, for example, you know, let's just as a visual, let's use this rug right here. Right, this transition from the wood to the rug as a limit, right? So if he knows what stay is, stay, right before he goes onto the rug, I'm going to tell him to stay, right? So this is pretty much that easy. And if I'm consistent with always telling the dog to stay, okay, so let's say I walk over here, good boy, stay, and then I grab the leash, I can guide him up, stay, stay. So pretty much I'm telling him to stay on that side of the rug, right? So if this was like a back door, if this was a threshold to the sliding glass door, the backyard, or the front door, you just use the stay to teach this consistent behavior, right? Okay, and the dog can only come through the threshold with a release, okay? So let's try that again. But what happens is it takes so many repetitions, stay. It takes so many repetitions for our dogs to start for our dogs to start anticipating that that's what we want all the time, right? So, and when I say a lot of repetition, I mean probably like close to 100, right? I would practice this 10 times a day or 15 times a day for a whole week, you know, and just get the reps in, right? And eventually what you'll start saying is your dog does not cross whatever imaginary line or visual line that you create, right? But this is only if the dog knows what stay means, right? The shortcut way, which I don't really like to teach, is the reprimand way. So pretty much any time that the dog breaks, crosses the line, I would get upset at them, right? That's something that we see a lot of we see a lot of people do who are impatient when they get angry. What I like to do is I like to teach the dog stay first, and then I like to teach them in what context they need to stay and what physical landmarks and barriers they need to stay. But you being able to just consistently say, I don't like it when you cross that line. I don't like it when you cross that line. The only problem with that is if you have a sensitive dog, they will get kind of scared of that threshold if it's always something negative, right? So I'm just a big advocate. Teach the dog to stay first and then use that stay on that boundary. I hope that was helpful for you. All right. I love you guys, boy. I love you, my friend. Okay. So another point I want to make with you guys. Notice I've done all this stuff inside the house, right? Like we haven't even gone outside. Next week, we're going to do a lot of stuff outside the house so you guys can see in the yard. But inside the house is the first learning environment, right? I would say if you're practicing outside and you see that your dog is failing too much, there's always some type of work that you can redo or strengthen, maybe in your backyard or maybe inside your house, right? So kind of the learning environments will go from inside the house to the backyard or the front yard, and then they can go out to the public, sidewalk, park, etc., right? But it's just easier on our dogs to learn things in less distracting environments first, and then gradually we build up the distraction and we make the learning environment a little bit harder for them, okay? So I hope that was helpful for you guys. I'm going to go ahead and answer questions for the next 5 minutes. So if anyone has any questions, that would be awesome. Oh, look it. Giovanna, is the leash the best tool to teach them stay? I missed the first few minutes. Yeah, you can always go back and watch the beginning of it. When this is done, it'll be recorded, and you can rewatch it at any given time. But the leashes is just a great way for as a placeholder, right? So a couple preliminary things that we had to teach the dog before using the leash as the main tool is what we call leash pressure. So just to remind you, if you didn't get to see it, leash pressure is teaching that pulling up means to sit, and that any downward pressure on the leash means to lay down. Okay, so this way the dog learns how to what each signal means, which makes it easier for us to prompt the dog to get into any particular position, right? So right now when he's in a down, if for any reason he gets up from the down, let's just create a mistake. Okay, boy. So if he got up, I just gently pull him down and he lays back down, okay? Now, one reason that leash pressure is really, really important for people in dog training is because it prevents us from getting loud, getting repetitive, and getting angry, right? So like the alternative would be, down, 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 and the dog would be like, why are you yelling, right? So the idea is if we have a leash, we can very easily prompt the dog and remind him what he's supposed to be doing. So if I were to say sit, if I were to say stay, let's say the dog broke the command, I would have to be like, no, no, sit, stay, right? When we're on a leash, the dog doesn't have so much room for error, which means we can keep them within a threshold we give them certain limitations where they can't fail as much, right? And so I really like leash training for teaching stay, even though it is possible to teach dogs to stay without leashes. We see that the leash, when dealing with high-level distractions, when dealing with social distractions, dealing with squirrels and stuff like that, this is one of the best ways, I would say, to develop a very strong stay, right? I love you, handsome boy. You so lovely. What's your little flirt? Okay. So let's see. What other questions we got? All right. Matt Salter. Should you have a training leash and a walking leash, or is it okay to use the same one? Good question. Same leash. Same leash. It's always the same leash, a training leash and a walking leash. Novice here. Javon, don't worry. Everyone got to start somewhere. Let's see. Brittany Clark. And do you use the same leash for a 10-pound dog and a 65-pound dog? If not, what leash do you recommend for a smaller dog? Something proportionate, right? Let me see. Let me see if I can find another leash. Not in this room, but in another room. So, give me a second. Stay that way. Stay. Oh, you did a good job. You did a good job. You stayed the whole time. What a good boy. So when we're looking at leashes, right, there's a bunch of different widths to leashes, right? So if we see, the difference between the black and the brown one is usually for your smaller breeds. I mean, it's not necessarily color related. This is 5/8 of an inch. This is about 1/4 inch, right? And then they have even fatter ones that are about a whole inch. So really, I would just go the thicker the leash for the bigger the dog, right? So if you have like a big Great Dane, get even a leash, thicker than this black one. Get a full inch, right? This is a 5/8. So that would be my answer for that. But there are other types of loops and leashes that we can use on dogs. So like, for example, what I was using with mine in the very, very beginning, we were using a small slip lead, right, from a veterinarian. So we were using this guy. I think one thing that I recommend for you guys, we just finished a podcast on our YouTube channel. You guys can see it. It's all about training collars and leashes, and just kind of talking about the different technology. So like this one, we've all seen before. It's just a piece of rope that just tightens up around the dog's neck if they pull against it. That's like the most basic training tool that we can use. And our boy Ozzy here, he has a what's called a Hermspringer pinch collar, which is a little baby pinch collar for him, because he's a really avid pooler and he's very impulsive, right? So this allows us to get the dog's attention with the least amount of force, the least amount of pressure. And so, yeah, I would recommend go ahead and watch that episode of the podcast, What Training Collar is Best, because then you guys will get a lot better idea up here of, maybe adjusting certain tools that you're using might make your training job a lot easier, right? The key for tools are to make jobs easier. Right. So, I mean, I could technically, hammer a nail into a wall with a rock or my fist, but it's nice when I have a hammer. Right. So everything makes your job a little bit easier. And the key within training is anytime we use tools, slip leads, whatever it is, that we phase out our reliance on them. So eventually our dogs learn to do them without the use of the leash or the collar or the food or whatever it is. So any training tool that we use to grab the dog's attention phases out completely towards the end. Okay. So I hope that answered your question. Are there any more questions, guys, before I clock out? It's been an hour. Any more questions I can help you guys with? All right. Doesn't seem to be any more questions. I really want to, one more question. No, Oreo isn't going to be on today, unfortunately. He's actually he's like past these parts of training, so it wouldn't be necessarily he wouldn't be a good example for this stuff, because he's actually better than this dog right now. So let's see. Yep, thanks. I'll watch the other video. I'm behind on the latest video. Don't worry about it, Brittany. How to teach a dog to stay distance in order to keep away from biting another dog. I would start with leash training first, right? So that would be the third tier of distraction. So if you can't get your dog to stay like with things that they like, then there's no way in hell you're going to be able to get your dog to stay with things that they don't like, right? If you can't control the dog's excited good feelings, you won't be able to control their excited bad feelings, right? So when developing patience and stay and all that stuff, it's really important that we develop that foundation, because there is no way we're going to get our dogs to, let's say our dogs have a reactive issue towards other dogs or lunge or something like that. If our dogs can't hold a simple stay with a tennis ball, with food, with other things that get them stimulated and excited, we kind of don't stand a chance, or the dog's understanding of stay isn't strong enough to withstand the temptation of something that he seems threatening or scary, right? So I would just say continue working on that. All right, I hope that was helpful. All right, guys, I want to thank you guys so much for joining us. I know we had some technical difficulties in the very, very beginning, but thanks for jumping back on and finding us. You guys have been actually really a lot more engaging today than some of the other weeks, so I'm really happy about that. This is a really important concept, and I don't know if you guys can see it, but our boy is super tired right now. We made him think too hard. He is just so pooped. So thank you guys so much. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and email us or leave comments at the bottom of this YouTube channel. Please make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, because we're doing this every week. I also want to let you guys know something. Some of you guys watching are already my clients. Some of you guys are new. We are launching this Monday virtual puppy group classes and rescue group classes. These are called our Raise and Train programs. I've been so moved by how many people have been opening up their homes and being with inviting new dogs into their life, that it's so important for me to make sure that these people have the right education from the get-go. And a lot of times people think that dog training has to, you okay? There's a dog outside. A lot of people think that dog training has to be in person, but as you guys see here, it's so easy for us to give you guys a lot of information virtually, and also do some demonstration work with you guys, okay? So we're actually running a really awesome special. Those of you guys who are already signed up for our group classes, we have a special offer for you guys. But those people who are interested in maybe signing up for one of our virtual group classes, our puppy raise and train or our rescue raise and train program, we're doing this at a ridiculous rate of $99, right? $99 for a 5-week course. And so the reason we're doing this is because so many people have lost their jobs. So many people have to take pay cuts, all these different things. So we really want to make this dog training for you guys super affordable. We will have multiple sessions running, so we'll have different sessions and days throughout the week that we are running the group class as well. But I just wanted to let you guys know, if you guys want to sign up for these group classes, we'll be sending out emails tomorrow. If I don't have your email, go ahead and put your email in the live chat, and I'll make sure you guys see this. If you guys have a neighbor, a friend, a family member who just got a dog or a rescue, please, please, please share that information with them, because we want to be able to help as many dogs as possible. Because one of the big things we're passionate about is we are concerned as dog trainers about what's going to happen when life goes back to normal, right? So we want to get rescue dogs and puppies on the right schedule now, so that way when you guys go back to work, they're not going to have separation anxiety. They're not going to have codependency. They're not going to be overprotective of you or concerned by you leaving. And so these are things we really want to coach people at a really low price to help them out as much as possible. Okay, so hope you guys enjoyed this podcast, or not podcast, this live stream, and we'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Thank you.